Dogs are dedicated to the families they live with, but for some, this connection can go deeper. Our four-legged friend have such a sense of loyalty to people that they feel the need to protect their humans, no matter the cost. Junrell Fuentes Revilla realized this when he was riding his motorcycle through the mountains in the Philippines and a dog with an urgent message started chasing him. On December 24, 2020, Junrell was riding his motorcycle in Cebu, the Cebu province of the Philippines, when he realized he wasn't alone. As he drove, he noticed a dog running alongside his bike. Junrell's canine companion started barking at him as he drove along the remote section of the road. The dog wouldn't stop following Junrell. They were in the mountains, away from the busy streets and other people. The only sign of life, Junrell realized, was the dog's incessant barking. So Junrell hit the brakes. When he did, the dog ran right over to him. Junrell didn't see anyone else around. It was just him and this weird dog who, no matter what Junrell did, refused to stop barking. For all he knew, the animal was sick or crazy. But there was something about the fierce look in the dog's eye that piqued Junrell's curiosity. The dog met Junrell's eye before turning around and walking in a totally different direction. He walked with such intent that Junrell knew he was supposed to follow the canine. The strange duo walked through the rocky, deserted mountains. The dog's steps quickened by the second. Finally, Junrell saw something in the distance. The dog got more excited the closer they got to the weird lump on the ground. But when Junrell was finally able to make out the object, he couldn't help but feel disappointed. It was just a bundle of rags laying in the dirt. Well, he thought the lump was just a bundle of rags, until it moved. Junrell couldn't tell that something was twisted inside the blankets, but he wasn't sure what it was. It was until a loud cry sounded from inside the pile of rags that Junrell knew the dog had led him to something extraordinary. To Revilla's surprise, he found a baby wrapped in a brown towel. Gia Barita, a staff member at the rescue organization Hope for Stray in the Philippines, said in an interview, "The location where the baby was found is isolated since it is on the top of the mountains." Junrell picked up the baby boy. There was no one around besides him and the dog, so he took the screaming infant with him. He sped to the local police station and the Department of Social Welfare took charge of the situation. When the doctors removed the rag, what they saw was jaw-dropping. They knew immediately that this baby was a newborn. In fact, he was so new to the world that when the doctors removed the rags, the baby still had his umbilical cord attached. While Junrell and the world waited for news about the baby's condition, however, the spotlight turned to his four-legged savior. Some nearby animal rescue organization, including Hope for Strays and the Passion Project, learned about the brave mountain dog and decided to try to save him. Hope for Strays is an independent nonprofit group that focuses on immediate rescue, though this would be a challenge unlike any other. The Passion Project is a nonprofit founded by a single woman, Malu Perez. She and her growing volunteer group rehabilitate and rehome dogs. You can get into many stressful situations in this line of work, but none of them had ever heard of such an extraordinary case. Domesticated animals are kept as pets in the Philippines, but the government's animal control organization isn't doing its part to save animals. Filipino actor and animal rights advocate Carla Abelana recently shed light on this issue. Carla wanted her Instagram followers to understand a dog or a cat's fate in the city's pound. There is a pound at pretty much every city in the Philippines. Each pound has hundreds of cats and dogs, Carla wrote. It is our government's duty to capture strays and bring them to these city pounds to control stray population. The way the officials accomplish this, however, is downright scary. And yes, it is protocol to euthanize these strays at the end of each month to make room for more, Carla wrote. Most of the time, these city pounds don't even euthanize humanly. Yes, there are proper ways, and instead just starve these cats and dogs to death or even poison them. Because of the difficult situation, the work that Filipino dog rescue organizations do is incredibly important, like searching for a hero dog in the mountains. Because the dog was alone, the volunteers believed he was a stray. They eventually found the dog, who led the team to a surprising spot. The dog took the rescuers to his home. He was one of the 10 dogs Kuya Lyndon Alengay cares for. Kuya called a hero dog who was little more than a year old, Blackie. "We've confirmed that he's not a stray at all," Gia said. Blackie may not be a stray, but Kuya himself was indeed. Kuya stated, "No matter how hard life is, even though I'm poor, I feed all my dogs and take care of them well," Gia said. The volunteers took to social media and local news outlets to ask for donation for Kuya's family and dogs. "We will also tap a vet who can go on-site to check the dogs, have them vaccinated and sprayed and neutered. We also wish to send 2 sacks of rice, groceries, and milk for the family and dog food for the dogs," the Passion Project wrote on Instagram. "Should you wish to help honor Hero Dog by making his lovely family happy, you may donate our fundraising drive," the Passion Project wrote. This brought international attention to the heartwarming story, and empathetic people sent a sea of donation. Meanwhile, they eagerly awaited an update on the little baby. Thankfully, the little boy was pronounced healthy because Blackie did his best to notify Junrell of the baby left on the mountain. The baby didn't sustain any injuries. The Women and Children's Protection Desk within the local police department listened to Junrell's report and immediately investigated the incident. Social services have since begun caring for the baby. They're trying to find the boy's parents or anyone who might have information about who abandoned the child. Until then, Junrell and Blackie are their star witnesses, and thankfully they are being rewarded as such by the public. The volunteers returned to the mountains with their sea of donation. Kuya Linden was teary-eyed and could not express how grateful he is. The Passion Project wrote on Facebook, "Blackie's altruistic actions ended up helping both his family and a baby boy. But not every dog gets the recognition they deserve. We can't save the world, but we can do something about the one in front of us. This is any good animal rescue's motto, and it also happens to be the motto of Melissa, Ringstaff, and her family, especially when it comes to man's best friend." The philosophy regularly encouraged the family to help animals. They often scooped up lost animals wandering around Harlan, Kentucky, feeding them and found them homes. Such was the case with a certain Great Pyrenees. Early on Saturday morning, the Ringstaff family cruised down the highway, a 2-hour drive ahead. But in the opposite lane, they noticed a great hulking dog lying still in the road. Cars swerved to avoid him. The Ringstaff were concerned that the dog had been hit by a car. Melissa's husband, Michael, a pastor, flipped on the car's hazard lights and pulled the truck over. They got out of the vehicle to inspect the canine. But as soon as Melissa and her gang stepped into the road, the dog stood up and walked over to them, curiously showing no sign of injury. It was then Melissa saw the heartbreaking reason the dog was staying so still. Off in the ditch lining the highway, another dog had been hit by a car. Tragically, he didn't live to tell the tale. By the looks of it, the dog in the road had been guarding his fallen friend. "The sight broke my heart," Melissa wrote. The Ringstaff tried luring the dog into their truck, but he refused to leave his friend behind. Heartbroken, the family left the stubborn Booch for the moment. They were, after all, on a day trip. But 10 hours later, they returned. The dog hadn't left. Thought he'd moved out of the road. So committed to saving the world in front of them, the Ringstaff hoisted the massive dog into their truck. Like so many other lost dogs, they'd find his home too. But as the Ringstaff drove with the dog in their truck, searching for the colorless dog's home, local after local told them the same story. One as tragic as the lost dog situation. Those dogs, the locals explained, belonged to someone who moved away. They left the dogs behind to fend for themselves, leading to one's demise. The abandoned and lonely Great Pyrenees had no home to return to. Worse, the dogs had apparently been living on the side of the highway for a couple of days. So heartbroken once more, the animal-loving Melissa and her family knew what they had to do to make this dog's world a better place. The Ringstaff brought the dog home, fed him, bathed him, and gave him a haircut. When night fell, she led him to a brand new canal, but the canine did not sleep. Instead, he broke from the canal in the dead of the night and disappeared from the Ringstaff home. The second Melissa spotted the canal with the now broken door, the family went out searching for him. It should have been easy. It's not like the big dog was in disguise. All day the Ringstaff searched, asking everyone they passed if they'd seen an enormous dog teetering around. They drove to the Humane Society and police stations. They couldn't find the Great Pyrenees anywhere. In fact, the Ringstaff spent 3 days looking for the dog, putting over 100 miles on their car, driving around a small Kentucky town. Finally, they spotted the pooch. Just a few miles from the Ringstaff home, the pooch sat on a stranger's porch, happy to see Melissa and her kids. The next day, Melissa bought him dog tags with his new name. At first inspired by the 2009 film Hachi, The Dog's Tale. Below, they called him Hachi. Like the dog of the film, Melissa wrote, "We found him loyally staying with his buddy who died, but they ultimately chose a happier name." In the end, Melissa wrote, "We named him Tucker. Though simple, the name somehow perfectly fits the dog's personality." Melissa went on to say that the part of the Newfoundland pup is incredibly sweet, very gentle, and we've yet to hear him bark, a fairy tale ending fit for a hero.